Well, good morning, good afternoon, or whatever time it is in your time zone. Decided to bring you a story about a man in South Korea who opened the door of an Asiana Airlines Airbus in midair. Now, I didn't even know that was possible. Apparently, it is. Go figure, this guy did it. So, South Korean police have detained a man who opened the door of an Asiana Airlines aircraft minutes before it was due to land in the city of Daegu, causing panic amongst the passengers. You bet it did. Have a look at this. It's really quite unbelievable. It's not even meant to be possible to be able to open a door in mid flight as an aircraft approaches the airport. I thought the plane was going to explode. It looked like passengers it looked like passengers next to the open door were fainting. An unidentified 44-year-old passenger told Yonhap, Yonhap being the Korean state broadcaster. It's unbelievable. Here's another shot. Well, quite remarkable, really. Put the blokes in custody, but how did this happen? So there's a couple of bits of video around and about. You've seen some of it. This is a picture of the individual being held down by passengers. Gosh, pretty frightening if you were sitting next to the door when that happened. But how on earth does that happen? So there's a number of people questioning how this could possibly happen. Wind buffets passengers as door opens. Love it, the Guardian begging for a few pence. Well, nothing that you haven't already seen there before. Let's have a look at what AV Herald has to say about this. Probably the best resource for information of this kind. Geez, my internet's not working too well today. Hope this broadcast is going out. Well, we're 3 minutes in, streaming at 10,000 kilobits per second. Asiana Daegu. An Asiana Airlines Airbus A321, registration HL8256, performing flight OZ8124 from Jeju to Daegu, Jeju being an island between the Republic of Korea and Japan, and Daegu being a city in the south, with 194 people on board, had been en route at FL210. Now that's flight level 210. That's 21,000 feet. Descending towards Daegu when the left-hand emergency exit opened, causing injuries to 9 passengers. Now, this should not have happened. They're asking questions of the crew here, actually. Crew is meant to lock those doors so they can't be opened in mid-flight. The aircraft continued for a safe landing at Daegu runway 13R. The injured were taken to hospital. Let's have a look at what if we're seeing anything actually that is unremarkable here. Let me just check that we're streaming. I'm not getting a notification, but it being YouTube, who knows what the hell's going on, right? Just give me a sec. Whoosh, there we are. It being YouTube. So we are live. It's wonderful to know. So what more can we glean from this? Well, there's always a cast of interesting people who will pile in with comments down below. Now, the guy that runs this is an interesting fellow, Simon Heredicki. Would that be Czech? Would that be Polish? Something like that, Central European? I think he might be over there because, time zone. I think he might have mentioned it once in the comments. So, comments. The true cost of this is the loss of revenue and the inquiry into the incident. You may have some poor, overworked aircraft engineers having to deal with another aircraft that wasn't scheduled in for maintenance. Most likely, Airbus will have to be consulted, and they will specify additional inspections on the door plus hinges, at door and hinges plus the airframe. Yeah, it seems like something is not going well here. I do know the 737. Sorry, I'll just highlight this so it's easy to see. I do know that the Boeing 737 overwing exit doors have flight locks that engage during aircraft takeoff, roll, and de-energize on landing roll. This prevents operation of the door in flight. Well, this wasn't a Boeing 737 Billy on Friday. You're a silly Billy. These doors have an assister mechanism that opens the door as soon as the internal handle is operated with the door armed. A car does not have this last time I checked. I'm not sure what that means. An emergency exit must work. Without a key and without help of another person, I think of a crash with you being the only conscious person on board and you want to get out. Yeah, no one's really helping us here. Is it really possible to open any exit with a pressurized cabin? I think that's probably from a non-English. Is it really possible to open any exit when the cabin is pressurized? I think that's probably what the gentleman means. Because it would be a gentleman. It's not the sort of comment a woman would make. Look, various reports are about here, referring to the altitude of the aircraft when this all happened. Here, we are told it is at 21,000. Others will tell you, such as in the Reddit commentary, that they were on approach, only 700 feet in altitude, and a large difference in the pressure inside the cabin and outside. I mean, that kind of makes sense that it would be pretty hard to push against the pressurized cabin. Hang on, sure, it's completely the opposite. I've seen comments in here saying that it would be difficult to open a door. These doors roll outside, don't they? Well, that's a detail that we might need to look up. Pull it in would be easier, surely. Harder at altitude, easier if it was going out, because the air is thinner outside and the pressure less. So the cabin is pressure. Let's see if we can get an expert opinion on this, because I've read a number of comments before I came on today talking about how confident they were that all of this posed no real risk to the passengers. The airline reported police are investigating a man who was sitting next to the emergency exit and said he had been touching the lever. The airline later added the aircraft was on final approach, descending through about 650 feet, 200 metres of height when the door opened. So here you go, Simon. You've got an internal inconsistency. Yeah. Okay. So it was at a minimal altitude, would have been relatively easy to open, no matter what um, the situation is with the door opening in or the door opening out. Kind of remember, it's been a while since I've been on an Airbus, but there's the door. It's open to the outside. But is there a bit of an internal move first before it starts to swing out? Don't really remember. Something to look into. But I wonder if there's any information on this lunatic. News. It's all going to be the same old news with this. Ooh, the New York Post might have an interesting take on this guy. Pulse pounding video shows Asiana flights panic as passenger opens door while still in the air. We don't get to see the door actually opening, do we? I don't suppose anyone would have had a reason to want to film it, but um, here he is. He's on board this South Korean flight, opens the door moments before the plane landed. Yeah, that makes more sense than the alternate. Let's have a look in Twitter what they are saying. Asiana. I mean, it's not a bad airline, but they've had a bit of bad luck. That does not look comfortable. Like, that lady, is that a lady? No, I don't know. Doesn't really make any difference. Still got the spectacles on, is that right? Nice work. I Wow. You'd shit yourself, wouldn't you? That would not be very nice. Um, let's quick look. Asiana flight radar. I heard Flight Radar 24 had the track of that aircraft. Here it is. So there it is. An A321-200. It's stretched out 320. It's pretty big. I think what I need to do is just to make a quick adjustment to my search terms here. Just bear with me. Feast your eyes on that lovely A321. I just thought that was smaller than that. That's a pretty big plane, isn't it? Here we go. Just a quick tap tap and I'll be back at work. Anna, just go back and pick up that Right, here we go. So passengers aboard Asiana Airlines flight QZ OZ 8124. A passenger aboard Asiana Airlines flight OZ 8124 opened an emergency exit door just before landing in Daegu. Now, here's a picture of an image of the track. Daegu, not so far into over the coast from Flight Radar. Pull it up. Pull up the website. Take you to see what the airport there looks like. All the way across, up a bit, down a bit. So Jeju is here. Jeju Island, bit of a tourist resort for South Koreans. The aircraft is heading up to Daegu here. Medium-sized city. Lots of flights in and out of there every day. Busy airspace, actually. Interesting. Not so busy over North Korea. So back to the story. The aircraft was able to land safely and the passenger was taken into custody by local police. Some passengers received medical attention, though no serious injuries have been reported. So it left yesterday at midday. Interesting. I hadn't heard about this yesterday. Midday, roughly midday, for a 42-minute flight to Daegu, according to the BBC, at 250 metres, approximately 1 minute before landing. The passenger opened the left side door. The door behind it, the door L3, based on footage from the aircraft, bloody, bloody, blah. Isn't it impossible to open a door in flight? 99% of the flight, it is absolutely impossible to open an aircraft door. Aircraft cabin doors act as plugs. As the pressure builds inside the aircraft, literally tons of pressure push on the door to keep it secured in place. However, as the aircraft descends to land, the pressure inside the aircraft begins to equalize with the pressure outside the aircraft. And at a certain very low altitude, the door can be opened. In this case, it was about 1 minute prior to the aircraft touching down. Well, that makes sense. Still thought there was a lock on that door that the crew had to. Anyway, let's just have a look at the playback here. See if that'll run for us. Flight Radar 24. It's a terrific service. I've got to hit something to make it go. Well, there's the track anyway. I think I'm not going to get this thing to go. I'm not logged into my account, that's why. But you get the picture. It's it's a sort of a 40-minute flight. Not that far, really. Anyway, what else do we know about this? So there's a lock. There's an image of a passenger being hauled off, injured, to be assessed at hospital. Jeffrey Thomas, an aviation expert with airline ratings, described the incident as very bizarre. Yeah. Technically, it's not possible to open these doors in flight. Yeah, that's my understanding too. He said that winds of about 170 miles per hour would have been passing the plane when the door was opened. And is this showing the door opening to the front? Yeah, so maybe it wasn't open the whole way. It just would have been open a bit because there's no way you'd be able to move it all the way forward like that against that kind of a breeze. It seems implausible that the door could be open in the first place. and then against the airstream, technically impossible. But somehow or other, it has happened. It's very interesting to see if there's any damage to the door mechanism. Asiana aircraft parked at Daegu International Airport. Interesting. Now, Asiana Airlines, it's not that great an airline actually. I want to play a quick video.
Coroner is still trying to determine the cause of death and whether she was already dead when the truck hit her. We have new information now also on the plane crash. KTVU has just learned the names of the 4 pilots who were on board the flight. They are Captain Sum Ting Wong, Wee Tu Lo, Ho Lee Fook, and Bang Ding Ao. The NTSB has confirmed these are the names of the pilots on board Flight 2.
Well, that's obviously a very embarrassing moment for that television station. That's from the Asiana crash at San Francisco. I think it was it was Asiana 214. I think it might have been 2013, maybe 2014, where a 777 crashed on landing at San Francisco International Airport. A couple of people were killed in this incident, unfortunately. And then the local TV station was basically suckered into publicising these names here, alleged names of the crew. Holy fuck. Yeah, well, they were forced into an embarrassing apology. Don't know why they would have thought that was appropriate, but my point here is that Asiana is a shit airline. And I wouldn't get on it myself. Asiana Airlines accident record. Asiana Airlines accidents, incidents. Flight 162. Oh, we've got a range to choose from. Regular short-haul international flight from Incheon in Seoul to Hiroshima in Japan, 2015. What happened there? It touched down short of the runway, struck the localizer array, skidded into the runway on its tail, spun 120 degrees before finally coming to a rest on the grass. The 82 people on board, 27 were injured, 1 seriously. Well, that's not as bad as it might have been. That was a 320-200, shorter aircraft, by my recollection. Here's 214. This was an absolute disgrace. It's quite an interesting video from the control tower of this all happening. It was in 2013, yeah, so almost a decade ago. Pilot training deficiencies. Deficiencies in Boeing's documentation of complex flight control systems. Really? It's one of the safer aircraft there is, the 777, yet they're finding that as a reason. But Asiana Airlines pilot training were also cited as contributing factors. Now, fatalities 3. Yeah, that was a shocker. I'm going to have a look at another reason not to fly Asiana. Not familiar with this one, but this is bad. So, flight 733 is it's a domestic Asiana Airlines passenger flight from Seoul Gimpo International to Mokpo Airport both in South Korea, 1993, 26th of July. Crashed as a result of pilot error, leading to controlled flight into terrain, basically flying into terrain as if you meant to, not realizing the terrain was there, but wanting to go somewhere else, peaceably, and then that happens. And 68 of the passengers killed, just over half. So that's bad piloting. Now, how long just have a look at the next one, because, I just remember a couple of them. Okay, well, this is a cargo aircraft. They even managed to wreck one of them. A Boeing 747-400 freighter from Seoul to Shanghai crashed into the sea off Jeju Island after suffering main deck fire. Both pilots, the only two on board, were killed. Um, the accident marked the second loss of a 747 freighter due to cargo hold fire in less than a year following the crash of UPS Airlines 6 in Dubai in September 2010. I recall that incident. That was a cargo on fire, as I recall. So, Asiana Airlines, how long has it been around for? Because, growing up as a youngster, I don't remember Asiana being something people spoke about. I grew up in Asia um, to a large degree, certainly 20s. And, oh, here it is, 1988, 35 years old. And it is a member of the Star Alliance. Look out, don't get a code share on them. Uh, so it is owned by Korean Air, which was acquired by Hanjin Transportation in 1969, had a monopoly on South Korean airline industry until the establishment of Asiana. Asiana's formation did not come about as a policy initiative favouring liberalised market conditions, but rather because of pressure from other chaebol, the large Korean conglomerates, chaebol, and other interests that wanted to compete. It was formed by the Kumho Asiana Group, formerly Kumho Group. I think they're an automotive company, and was originally known as Seoul Air International. Asiana was established on 17 February 1988, started operations in December with flights to Busan in the south. As of 2007, the airline was owned by private investors, 30% Kumho Industrial, 30%, Kumho Petrochemical, 15%, foreign investors, 11.9%, Korea Development Bank, 7.18%, and others, but just under 6%. So, the new corporate identity came around as a 2006 initiative. That's maybe why I hadn't really heard of it very much, but it's an interesting development. How long have we been into this for? 28 minutes. Let's see. I think we just need to have a quick look. Make sure that was a. Oh, gosh, they've missed a few. They've missed a few. Well, they've been pretty quick today in updating Wikipedia from yesterday. A passenger opened an emergency exit as Asiana Airlines 8124 was on approach to Daegu International Airport on a flight from Jeju. The emergency slide deployed and was ripped off. No shit, that would have been quite something to see. The aircraft landed safely, but at least 6 people were injured and taken to hospital. The passenger that opened the door was arrested. All right. 2019, there was a problem with nose gear in another, in a 320. 2015, there was the Hiroshima crash that we discussed earlier. 2013, there was the San Francisco crash that we discussed earlier. 2011, oh gee, they'd be pretty well versed in picking up parts of aircraft, wouldn't they? There was the cargo flight, and then they go back a fair way to 1998 over in Anchorage, Ted Stevens International Airport. Tip of a wing hit an Illusion 62M belonging to Aeroflot. They're a beautiful aircraft. It's a disgrace, damaging one of them. Asiana was subsequently sued by Aeroflot and the Illusion was written off, yeah. And there was the short crashed in the one we talked about from 1993, Flight 733. So, I guess you have to ask yourself what's been going on in the last decade and a bit. A relatively good record before that, although the 1993 event isn't great. So, Korean airlines, as a general rule, are pretty, rough and ready. There's been plenty of accidents. Let's have a quick look. Korean Air. Now, that's a much bigger airline. That's been going since 1962. Fleet size 162. And we never got a sense of how big the Asiana fleet was, but I think, let's see. Let's pull that one. Asiana Airlines Fleet 77. The Korean Air 164, so a bit over half. The size, big airline. Big important national institution in a way. Current fleet, huge, actually. They seem to be going heavily into Dreamliners, and you got the Airbuses on order, Boeing Maxes. Wow, they seem to be getting rid of their they've got a couple of A220s on order, 10 on order, A321neo on order. Well, let's see about their safety record, accidents and incidents. Yeah, in the late 1990s, this is as I recall it, Korean Air was an industry pariah, notorious for fatal crashes due to its extremely poor safety record, being one of the world's most dangerous airlines. Safety has seemingly improved since the airline made concerted efforts to improve standards in the early 21st century. Between 1970 and 1999, many fatal accidents occurred. I want numbers. What's going on here? Numbers. I find this very... Oh no, we've got a whole tab. Just give me a sec. Well, here we go. Many fatal accidents. 17 Korean aircraft have been written off in serious incidents and accidents with the loss of 700 lives. Well, Asiana's killed quite a few people as well. 2 Korean Air aircraft shot down by the Soviet Union, one as KAL-904 and the other one as KAL Flight 007. The deadliest incident was 007 flight, which had 269 people on board, all killed, even a US congressman on board. The last fatal accident was in 1997, which killed 229 people. The last crew fatalities were a cargo flight that crashed in 1999. So they seem to have improved their safety record, but let's have a bit of a run through them. So Korean Airlines hijacking, this event here, 11 December 1969. Hijackers commandeered the aircraft, forced it to fly to North Korea. Upon landing, the aircraft was damaged beyond repair and written off. Okay. A Fokker Friendship crashed in 1971 between Gangneung and Seoul, hijacked by a man with grenades. It crash landed on a deserted beach near Sokcho. Grenades exploded, killing the passenger and co-pilot. Aircraft written off. Here's another one. 76, cargo flight, 707, flies out of Tehran, and then deviated from the standard instrument departure procedure and drifted to the right instead of performing a left turnout. It continued and hit the mountains. Yeah, those mountains around Tehran are huge, at an altitude of 6,630 feet. All 5 crew members killed. Here's the Paris to Anchorage flight. It's flown within 780 kilometres of the North Pole. When the Canadians told the crew they were off course, they changed course, but this worsened the situation by setting a course directly across the Barents Sea and into Soviet airspace. The plane was initially recognised by Soviet anti-aircraft defence radars as being a Boeing 747. My goodness. A Sukhoi Su-15, well, several of them were sent to intercept. When both jets were flying next to the Korean airliner, the Korean captain claimed as he slowed the plane and initiated landing lights. Is that right? The Korean captain? Okay. Nevertheless, the Su-15 crews were ordered to shoot down the plane. According to US intelligence sources, the Soviet pilot tried for several minutes to convince his superiors to cancel the attack on the civilian airliner. After an additional order, 2 R-60 missiles were launched. The first missed, but the second severely damaged the left wing, and shrapnel punctured the fuselage, causing rapid decompression that killed 2 passengers. The Korean pilot initiated an emergency descent to 5,000 feet and entered the clouds. Both Soviet jets lost the Korean plane in the clouds. The aircraft continued at a low altitude, crossing the Kola Peninsula while searching for a landing opportunity. With night coming on quickly, several unsuccessful attempts were made before the plane landed on the ice at Korpiyarvi Lake near Kem, Russia. All of the remaining occupants were rescued by Soviet helicopters. Oh my God, that doesn't sound like much fun. It sounds dreadful. November 1980, Flight 15, 747, departed from Anchorage for Seoul, the old route across the Pacific from the United States up to Anchorage, because the range on these things was so short. The aircraft struck a retaining embankment at the edge of the airport. The aeroplane bounced back onto the runway, broke apart and caught fire. 14 people on the aircraft died. 1 fatality on the ground. God, it just goes on and on. These are pretty serious incidents. Flight 903, a Boeing 747 from Seoul to Zurich, taking off from Ninoy Aquino International Airport. That's a strange way to get from Seoul to Zurich. They're going to the Philippines, so it overshoots the runway during an aborted takeoff, hitting the airport perimeter fence. As a result, the aircraft's nose blocked traffic on the service road. 40 of 352 occupants were injured. Okay. Gosh, this is probably the worst one, and it's hardly the fault of Korean Airlines. Well, probably is in a way. So on the 1st of September 1983, Flight 007 747 departed New York for Seoul via Anchorage, takes off at Anchorage at 1300. Flight cleared directly to the Bethel VOR beacon and then to the Romeo 20 route. Pilots mistakenly diverted from its intended route and passed 12 miles north of the Bethel beacon. While approaching the Kamchatka Peninsula, 6 Soviet MiG-23 fighters were scrambled because a US Boeing RC-135 intelligence aircraft was flying east off Kamchatka. So the Soviets may have assumed the 747 radar Echo to be, well, a similarly sized RC-135 aircraft. So the flight left Soviet airspace over the Sea of Okhotsk, and the fighters returned to their base, passing a beam of the Nippy beacon 4 hours after takeoff. So 2 Soviet Su-15 Flagon fighters were then scrambled from the Dolinsk Sokol Air Base. Okay, so they've moved on through Soviet airspace. They've re-entered Soviet airspace, and the Soviet command has ordered the aircraft to be shot down. So 2 air-to-air missiles are launched by one of the fighters, which struck the Boeing at 6:26 UTC. Cabin pressure lost, and the aircraft suffered control problems, causing the plane to spiral into the sea. The event was denounced by the Reagan administration as a deliberate and wanton act of murder by an evil empire. Boris Yeltsin handed the black boxes to the Federal Aviation Administration. Now, Boris Yeltsin must have done that a lot later. All occupants on the aircraft were killed. So you get the picture, right? I mean, you take your life in your own hands when you get on one of these Korean aircraft. Now, it's going to have a bit more of a hunt around for information on Asiana flight. Asiana. What is that? Just look at Asiana, I think. I think we've all seen that one. It's it wouldn't have been very pleasant. So there seems to be just 2 videos taken. Everyone else must have been just holding on for dear life. Well, in a way, it's a shame that didn't end up happening. You get the idea. So everyone's been running with this story. No one's got very many details on it. What have these guys got to say for themselves? Same old, same old. It's just the same. There must be some photos that are new. Okay, well, that's interesting. I did not notice that in the photograph that was up on AV Herald. Perhaps. Oh, no. This wasn't looking very, very closely at it. That's where the emergency sliders come from. So no one's really got any info, I don't think. That was an interesting article there on Flight Radar 24. Same old, same old. Yeah. Very odd that, we're so far into this incident and really 4 or 5 images are available. What were people doing? Where are the images? I'm going to go and try and find them. Wow. It's going to cost a lot of money to fix that plane. Yeah, this is something else. We're getting into. I still find it a bit hard to believe that this is possible. But just any old maniac can do this, and that's a bit of a worry actually, because if it's true that any old maniac, what was that at the very beginning? It's just kind of uncanny that maybe 6 tops images are available.
A passenger opened the emergency door sitting next to the
Terrible.
wings of an air.
So I just wonder where everything else is, how it's going to come out. Someone else must have something. I intend to find it.
Because he opened the emergency exit for an aircraft while they were flying over South Korea. As soon as they landed, they had the guy arrested.
Yeah, good. All right. I've probably just about exhausted the scope for this topic. I'm going to sign off and take a look at a few other things. There's bugger all available. I find it odd that no one else has got anything. Am I missing something obvious here? Yeah. Well, okay. That is the aircraft. That's the whole aircraft. It's a rather large aircraft. But that really is. I mean, no one's got a fresh take on this anywhere. Airline ratings is pretty good actually. So basing it on an AV Herald report. Yeah, basically copying Simon's words almost word for word. BNO News. Yeah. It's interesting that we have so little information on this. I mean, who is this guy? Kind of a lunatic, is he? Let's have a look in here. Airline ratings. My recollection is I once did a lot of work based on these ratings. Ranked three of 7 stars. Holy crap, that's not good. So I thought this was more of a website that rated the relative safety of airlines against each other. That was some time ago when I did that work. I remember it pretty well though. I think, well, missing something here. Where's the beef? I think we've been over their safety record pretty thoroughly today. 3 out of 7. Safety rating breakdown. Let's have a look. Oh, if I'm not mistaken, there's only 2 ticks there. Or incident rating and audit. I see. There's a bit of a preference towards airlines that have had no fatalities. If you had a fatality-free last 10 years, well, Asiana will be out of that period in a month or so, 5 weeks from their last one. Aeroflot, yeah, nah. So look, I think that's all there is to say on all of this. I'm going to sign out. Thank you very much for tuning in.